Once upon a time in a small town, there was a well-known and respected old doctor. People loved him because of his dedication, compassion, and medical knowledge. But unfortunately, no one knew much about his personal life. Some people assumed he was married and had kids, while others believed he was single. However, none of these assumptions were true. One day an event occurred that shocked everyone and revealed a surprising truth about the doctor's life. It all started when the doctor was admitted to the same hospital he had served at for over 30 years. He was extremely ill, and his condition quickly worsened. Doctors tried their best to save him, but it became clear that he wouldn't make it. His colleagues visited him, bringing with them many questions and concerns. They wanted to know what had happened to him and how his health could have deteriorated so rapidly. But the doctor was unable to answer any of their questions. He was barely conscious, and the little he managed to say was incoherent. As the days passed and the doctor grew weaker, one question kept coming back to everyone's mind. Who would take care of him? He had no family and very few friends. In fact, the only person anyone knew him to be close with was a young woman named Anna, who worked as a clerk at the hospital's reception. But she was just a friend and not a relative. Then something unexpected happened. One afternoon, when the doctor was already unconscious, a handsome young man walked into his hospital room. The man was well-dressed and clearly successful. He introduced himself as the doctor's son and explained that he had come to take care of his father. Everyone was shocked. No one knew the doctor had a son, let alone that he had such a successful one. The young man settled by his father's bedside, promising to stay with him until the end. He talked to the doctor in a low voice, sharing stories and memories. Looking at the interaction between the two, everyone felt a mix of admiration and envy towards the young man. Even though he was busy dealing with his father's illness, he still found time to show him love and care. Days went by and the doctor's condition worsened. His son never left his side, always holding his hand and comforting him. Nurses would often enter the room to check on the doctor, and they could unhelp but be moved by the bond between him and his son. They had never seen anything like it before. Finally, the day came when the doctor passed away peacefully with his son by his side. After everything was settled, the young man approached his father's colleagues and friends, thanking them for their support and care. He then left the hospital alone. Everyone watched him go, wondering what would become of him now that his father was gone. As the weeks passed, people began to forget about the doctor's son. Some returned to their daily routines as if nothing had happened, while others continued to wonder about the mysterious young man. Had he really been the doctor's son all this time? Or was he just a stranger who had appeared out of nowhere to fulfill some unknown purpose? One day, a few of the doctor's friends decided to pay a visit to the hospital where he had worked. They wanted to pay their respects to their beloved colleague and reminisce about the good old days. Upon entering the building, they stopped by the reception to inquire about the doctor's room. The staff there politely directed them to the 4th floor, which used to be the doctor's domain. As they walked through the familiar hallway, a strange feeling of nostalgia washed over them. They remembered countless moments spent in those rooms, both joyful and sorrowful. But their attention was soon drawn to a particular room they hadn't visited before. It was room 409. Curious, they decided to check it out. What they saw inside the room left them stunned. The walls were covered with pictures of the doctor from various stages of his life. There were images of him as a young student, a newly qualified doctor, and of course, with his parents. But the most striking image was a photograph of the doctor as a baby being held by a woman they recognized as Anna, the hospital clerk. Suddenly, it all made sense to them. They finally understood who the young man visiting the doctor in the intensive care unit was. He wasn't the doctor's biological son. Instead, he was the son of the woman who had raised the doctor. Why? Because the doctor was actually Anna's son. All those years ago, the doctor's mother gave him up for adoption, so that he could have a better life. She couldn't provide him with the opportunities he deserved, so she entrusted him to a friend, promising to keep in touch. However, over time, contact between them was lost. When Anna found out that the doctor was a son, she couldn't contain her joy. For decades, she had missed having a child, and now fate had brought her son back to her. Albeit under difficult circumstances. Despite being shocked by the revelation, the doctor's friends felt relieved. They were happy to know that the young man was unjust a random person who had appeared out of nowhere. Instead, he had a deep connection to the doctor, even if it wasn't the one they had initially imagined. From that moment on, The doctor's friends made sure to visit Anna regularly. They wanted to know more about the young man and his life, eager to hear every story in detail. They also apologized for not realizing sooner who he was and for any pain it may have caused him. As for the young man, he continued to live his life far away from the town where his birth parents resided. Every now and then, though, he returned home to see his adoptive mother. Their bond was unbreakable, forged through years of love, care, and mutual respect. Now, whenever people in the town remember the old doctor, they also recall his extraordinary life story and the touching relationship he shared with his adoptive mother. They feel a sense of pride knowing that such a remarkable individual once lived among them, and that his legacy continues to live on. And that is the end of our story today. Thank you for listening. If you liked the story, please hit the like button and share it with your friends. We would appreciate it if you could also leave a comment below with your thoughts or any other stories you'd like us to tell in the future. Your feedback is very important to us, and we're always reading the comments. So don't hesitate to write whatever is on your mind. Once again, thank you for joining us. We invite you to subscribe so you don't miss out on our next stories. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon.